Well, hello, everybody, and welcome out. It is another Monday night, and we are here ready to have some fun with you guys. We're ready to have some interesting conversation, and apparently they're already in the mode because they're in this dark room because they're trying not to be afraid. They don't want to be afraid of the dark.
We're working on that. We're not being very successful.
No.
I'm scared of the cricket.
And MJ's got like lights going like.
I just switched everything to dark mode, so I'm all about that hashtag Matte Black everything.
There you go. There you go. Man in Black, part 2.
And that's not what that's from.
I know.
Oh,
I was
building
changing
up.
it.
You aren't following the reference, Dan. You have to follow the reference, otherwise you're illogical.
Nowadays, you went to a different.
When have I ever been logical? How long have we done this show? Come on.
Trying to get you guys.
This is our 3rd or 4th one, so we're doing really well.
Yeah.
We're doing really well. We got some folks out there joining us tonight. I see, let's see, I think Mikey's out there on Facebook and Howie's out there on YouTube. Thank you for joining us and being with us tonight. So this was actually a topic that kind of came out of last week when we were doing our DJNTV training night. And if you haven't had a chance to go check that out, go to djntv.com/virtual expo. That takes you to the last and eventually to the next virtual training. But we talked, last week was all about being a fearless DJ across the board. But one of the areas we didn't talk about at all was really in the performance. We got to a little bit of that with Stephanie in her session where she talked about microphone skills and speaking on the microphone and being bold on the microphone. And she had a few tips in her session on that. But other than that, we talked about finances. We talked about sales. We talked about quoting prices, talked about getting older, and branding. But we really didn't get into the actual being fearless when it came to the performance side. So MJ brought it up and thought, that's a good topic. So Dan and I are going to go take a nap. MJ, you said you had notes? Go.
I just thought it was really kind of interesting that this is a DJ network and you did a night on fearlessness and nobody decided to talk about DJing, the actual act of DJing. So I thought it was a good thing to talk about because I'm wearing the denim shirt tonight because years ago I got the opportunity to spin in the denim booth at the Atlantic City DJ Expo, and it got more people to say, I wouldn't do that. I don't want to spin in front of my peers than I ever thought I would ever hear from other DJs. Because I was like, well, you DJ in front of people every weekend, don't you? Well, it's not the same. And apparently it's not the same. It's not the same for me because I care less what the DJs say than the crowd. But I think everybody else is thinking it's the other way around. But it's an interesting thing that what we do for a living can be, at times, really, really stressful.
Yeah.
It's the least I could say on so many levels. And I thought we should attack this tonight a little bit about that, about different ways that it can be stressful, both on so many levels. Mm-hmm. I think this is going to be a tough topic to cut short. So
yeah,
where do you want to start?
Well, I think Mikey just on Facebook brought up throughout one of his biggest fears. And let's for those of you out there, that might be a really good way to do that is what are some of the things at events when it comes to performance side that are those little nagging fears in the background? Mikey mentions that the biggest fear is the computer crashing at the event. And we've all had that happen where it's the blue wheel or whatever the thing is on a Windows, the ticking time bomb or, the exploding laptop. I don't know what happens on a PC when they die.
Exploding.
I
had an orange screen of death once.
Orange screen. I've heard.
I had to look it up. It was about a driver. It was a bad driver, and that's what when you have a bad driver and it crashes, you get an orange screen of death. I'm like, I've never seen this. It was almost like sherbet color, and I'm like, what the freak is this? So now I know, and now you know.
Yeah, I did not know that was such a thing, but yeah, the computer side. When we first made that jump to computers, that was something that was a concern, and occasionally, I think virtual probably 3 or 4 times of my time of using it, I've had issues where something will spin and then maybe I can't access or something to that effect. I don't know. It just hasn't been a thing I worry about or think about too terribly much, because if something happens, I turn on the microphone, I talk, well, isn't that just ducky? And you deal with it, restart, go there, and talk to the audience for that 30 seconds it takes to get it going again.
I had probably the biggest concern when I first got started, when we first made the switch, because I was also at a point in my career where I didn't have a backup. Like my backup was, I shouldn't say I didn't have my backup, but I would have like a couple CDs possibly for my backup, and it wasn't going to get me through a night because I didn't have a backup computer and I didn't have iPads and, and all that kind of stuff. And so I was a little bit more nerve wracking that. I still remember one time I was doing a show and I had added the virtual DJ remote app. So the idea was I was going to control it from the floor so that if I was out leading something or whatever, I still had it in my hand and I could do that and everything else. And I remember using it and it went over great. And then I went up back into my booth and went to take control again, and it froze. Like my screen just froze. It kept playing. The song finished out, but I had nothing in the meantime. And so I was able to get things flipped over, and I think I was able to buy myself a song while I restarted the app and was good to go. But I just remember like that just heart pounding going, oh my gosh, what if I can't get this back up and going? What if, and now I have enough like backup to backup and redundancy to be able to go, all right, I'm not going to have the main system, but I'm still going to have a system to get me through the night.
I could have solved that problem for you really easy, Dan.
Okay.
Kill the Wi-Fi.
Well, then it doesn't work for the app.
Yeah,
exactly. It's locked onto the Wi-Fi. Kill the Wi-Fi on the phone first, kill it on the computer, you will have control again.
Oh, from that standpoint. Yeah. I think you may have told me that, or somebody told me about that after it happened way back when. And now I just don't use it because I found other ways to go about it and other things to do with it. And I don't have that same issue. But yeah, when you're doing it, you have to disconnect in a certain way to completely alleviate those issues.
For those who do want a way to start music out on the floor, this is something I'm throwing out there. You can run your Spotify app to control what's going on your computer. So if you have a song loaded, like let's say you pay for Spotify so there's no commercials, and you have a song that's just a regular song, not a special edition that you want to play when you're out there, open up your Spotify app on your phone and you can trigger it to play what's going on the computer. So keep that in mind for future things. Sorry.
But you do have to have internet access in order for the two to speak. Are you sure about that?
The computer has to be on the internet. Yeah.
That's what I mean.
Okay, I keep forgetting some of you people don't do that.
I'm in locations that don't have it.
Yeah, but
you don't have phone service either?
They barely got running water, MJ.
They have to pump in sunshine. They're so far out.
Outside, there are
some venues I'm at that do not have.
They use the Sears
I wouldn't even do that.
For toilet paper in the outhouse out back.
But you can do it through an intranet. And if you create your own internet Wi-Fi, you can do it that way. Do you know what that is?
I do, and that's what I have set up.
You should be able to do it through that then. Yeah.
I'll have to try it.
You have to offline your Spotify music.
Yep.
Before, and then you can control it if they're on the same one. I'm pretty sure. But that's not something to be afraid about. That's something to do.
Yeah.
So what you're thinking about where you're going, I will add to this. You talked about in the very beginning that the nervousness you had with the Den and DJ, and the people that I should say that, not you, but the people coming up to you saying, whatever. I'm 100% right in that same position. When this past year, when we did the chill event 2 weeks ago, I guess it was now, before I stepped on stage, like my heart was just pounding. And I think where a lot of people come into that from is because they recognize that if I screw up, the people that are here to be a part of this are going to know.
Okay. So they know. You're in New Jersey. How are they going to affect your jobs back home?
Well, I realize it's not.
Exactly. So,
but
let them mock all they want. You're up there. They're not. If they have something to say, I'm like, the decks are there. Help yourself. Because if you aren't, shut the freak up. That's all there is to it. You ain't gonna you booing me is not gonna take what jobs away from me, and it's definitely not gonna give you any because you ain't even stepping up here. period. So just sit down there, suck on your chicken wing, and dream you were me.
MJ, tell us how you really feel.
Someone on the chat said, what about Spotify legal issues? Whatever. I'm in one of those moods tonight that's just like, no. No. That's all I got to say. You have to find your ability to step past that fear. Because I'm telling you right now, there isn't a DJ in the world that does not have fear. Everybody has fear. Everybody. I have friends who I consider incredible, talented DJs who have extremely large, there's a friend of mine, no joke, DMC competitor, has a wedding business that is huge, like you can't even imagine. And he told me there's some gigs that he goes out and does, not competitions, but weddings that he'll stand in the bathroom, look in the mirror saying, you can do this. Mm-hmm. You can do this. And I'm like, you're like the man, So everybody has this, and you do have to fight through it, and you have to find your ways to do it. Mine has been a very much disconnect from other people because people are going to run their mouths. So if I'm up there doing it, that's a step further than the majority of the people. So you have nothing to say unless you're willing to step up. And number two, how much is you failing really going to affect you? I heard a guy one time say that you look at a person who has succeeded, they are not standing on a mountain of successes. They are standing on a mountain of failures because they tried. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the biggest things you have to do. You have to throw yourself out there. Preparation is important. Don't get me wrong, but you really have to take it. I spoke last week when we talked about these things, and I'm going to jump off of this so you guys can go into it. But I talked about it's a lot of mental. It's how you mentally look at these things. And for me, it is now one of the best things that I've kind of come across is the ability to look at what I'm doing as being creative. And that really lets me disconnect from, am I doing a good job or not? If I've prepared, if I work hard, I'm doing a good job. Otherwise, they wouldn't keep bringing me back. Right, so how do I then look at that to get rid of the fear? For me, it's let's be creative. Let's get relaxed. Let's see what I can create with this crowd. And it's the same way if you're speaking or whatever, you're going to be better if you're more comfortable. So you have to get past that fear to be better, I think.
I think there is some fear that comes into it, especially from those of us that do single events. All right. And what I mean by that is, when somebody hires me, they found me. All right. They, sometimes they've maybe have seen me at an event or so-and-so has recommended me, but more often than not, they found me. Right. And so they're hiring me. They're putting a lot of faith into what I'm doing. They're putting a lot of trust in what I'm doing, and they're expecting me to perform. So there is some nervousness, I think, that comes into it. I'm not to the level that your friend is, looking in the mirror and saying, you can do this. But in the same respect, it's still one of those things that when I first crack a mic, when I first start the dance floor, I even though I put all the prep in, even though I've done the practice and everything else, I still have that butterflies in my stomach that it's going to work. Because if it doesn't, they can affect it.
How many times has it not worked for you?
It doesn't matter.
Give me yes, it does. Give me a percentage.
It's always, what do you mean as far as not worked?
Like you just said, if it doesn't work, you failed.
Right. So
what percentage of what you've done would you consider failed?
Oh, so that's a different story.
Well, what are you talking about failing then? Because no one can tell you. Go ahead.
If failing in my eyes or not performing to the level that I want has happened, I don't know, 30% of the time. Really? I don't know. I would have to go back to the level that I want. Now, performing to the level of the client, I can think of one client in my entire time. And she was being unrealistic. That's
perfect example, Dan, because when I talked about the mentality of it, who's paying you? You? Well, technically you're paying you or the client.
Right.
So who at the end of the day do you really have to make happy, and who is going to be happy?
Right. No, I agree. I agree that it is the client that I had to focus on. And I don't want to have that failure there, because again, even though in the entire time I can think of one particular couple, it still is one of those thoughts that go through my head that if I don't perform, there is social media, there is, reviews, there is opportunities for them to affect.
Well, that's where I'm trying to get you to look at it mentally, not you, but everybody. When I'm saying this, I'm kind of, speaking for everybody, is that if your percentage of times that it didn't work out is what it would be less than 1%, right? If that one person.
Yeah.
So what are the odds of that happening again? Less than 1%. So if you go in there fearing that, you're setting yourself up to trip, not fall, but trip. So you have to go in there and go, I've done this before. I can do this again. I'm here. I'm just going to be me. I'm just going to do the job I do every time. And who I am is who you're out there. That's the personality of Dan, that when you're speaking, when you're talking to your clients, just be you, because that's what people want. You, they've hired you. They like you. So take that fear and go, this isn't real fear. This is a concern. This is caring about my craft and how well I do, but it's not a fear.
Well, and I think you kind of just hit on it a little bit. All right. So when I talk about a fear, I'm talking about, like I said, butterflies in the stomach and things like that. It doesn't grip me to the point that I am terrified for a moment, but it is something that grabs a hold of me enough to go, it's in there. Like it's the
that's what I'm trying to get you to not to look at it as fear, to look at that butterfly as you're caring that you're doing a good job, and that's good. You want to do a good job, and that's good. So it's not fear, it's your energy wanting to do a good job. So when you look at it that way, it's not as big. You can then channel it and use it. That's what I'm trying to get people to understand. Everybody has that feeling to some level or another. How you mentally use that can change everything.
John's just afraid of the cricket.
Yeah, I think my cricket's back.
Yeah, we're all feeling bad. John has a cricket in his studio, and the rest of us, every time we say something and nobody else speaks up and we hear a cricket, we're like, darn, maybe I shouldn't have said that.
Yeah, no, that's my good friend over there. He's down in the corner. He's behind about 1,000 pounds of wood, so there's no way to get to him now.
Chirpy boy, we'll call him.
He'll be gone by October, guys. I'm looking forward to that. I think that butterfly thing you talk about in the world of sports, an athlete, when they're getting ready for that performance, there's that butterflies, and that can cause paralysis or non-performance, or it can be something that is used to amplify the performance, because that gets those endorphins going and the adrenaline going and gets you ready for that moment in time. And I think that probably the most important part to get you to that, to be able to use that in that positive manner, is the time you put into practice and the time you put in before you get there. So you know that you've got things down. You know your skills are to the level they need to be. So you can just basically go and say, hey, I'm just going to go out there and I'm going to do it. And I think too often DJs will go and say, I've done this for 20 years. I don't need to practice anymore. I'm just going to go and I can do it. And they wing it. And they think they're like, yeah, I did a great job. Everyone said I was the greatest DJ in the world. And yet their potential to be great is so much greater than what they actually did. They did a nice job, but they could have done more. They could have been cleaner at this. They could have been better at that. And sometimes we need to be more respectful of those butterflies and have a little fear, because if we don't put the work in to be prepared for it, it can cause damage to our reputation and shows.
If you don't have it, it's the opposite end. You're not caring enough.
Yeah, very much so.
My friend Scott used to say, it's a really quick quote, and I used to love it. He used to talk about it when we used to play basketball. He'd say, it's all about confidence, not over, not under, just confidence. Mm-hmm. And that's a tough balance to find.
Well, yeah, because that's the other thing. And my wife is really quick to knock me down on this, which is, when I start having that confidence about what I'm doing and stuff like that, and I start talking about this and that, and she goes, all right, you're getting cocky. And it's like, and you don't want to have that. Like, you don't want to come across that way. But yeah, she's quick to knock me down. If you guys don't, she will. It's all there is.
She's on that one for you.
I don't even know what to say. John, it's up to you.
I'm just
You're the cricket.
Yeah, I'm just the cricket person tonight. I'm gonna try to get it. I wish I could get this on a beat. Get a re-drum of it.
Yeah, let's sample and remake that. Tonight we're changing the topic to cricket mixing.
Cricket mixing crickets. It's great.
This topic, like I said, has been a big thing for me because I've been chasing this dream my whole life. And there's nights where I should have had most confidence in the world where I actually had friends come along going, dude, I can't handle this. Will you come with me tonight and help me? And it wasn't even anything. It was just my mind. It wasn't a difficult thing. It wasn't a gig that I've never done. It's nothing like that. It was just something that I mentally was not ready to handle, which I'm not a big people person. I don't know if you guys know that or not. I don't say that too often. I try to keep that on the down low. But no laughing. Okay, it's not funny anymore.
Well, the cricket's laughing. Crickets.
Now, you're supposed to laugh at those things, so I say it all the time. But it really that's one of my toughest things. You have to find what your weakness is, because you have to know your strengths, your weaknesses. 3 rules of fighting. Okay, rule number 1: do not overestimate yourself or know your limits. Rule number 2: do not underestimate your opponent or expect the unexpected. And number 3: know when to duck and or run. And you have to know where your things are in all of those. Is where's your strengths, where's your weaknesses, which are you going to put forward? Do you have the ability to hide your weakness that night with a strength? Do you have to play up to your strengths? Do you have to guard your weakness, or are you just going to go, listen, whatever, this isn't even a weakness, it's just there? If it comes off as weird, okay. You have to look at things and put your cards on the table, because the more you're honest with yourself, the easier this is going to be, in my opinion. And the crickets.
And the cricket's back. Yeah, people have been in a different chat. They've been talking about gear issues. Gear. Mike just mentioned the microphone going out. Somebody said a speaker blowing up. Those types of things. Yes, you can't practice. You can understand your gear and know how to work around it. But I think those are the types of situations, while you can't practice a breakdown per se, you can develop some skills or a routine and how to deal with it. And as I mentioned with the laptop, when I've had a song that's crapped out, there's a little kind of a little, I don't want to say a story, but basically a little orientation that I do with that, talking about whatever in the moment, and it's that using some self-deprecating humor during that time, and getting things back up. And sometimes if I'm at a school, we'll have the kids cheer for the whatever class and mess around with them, but having something in mind that you have done before, or you've designed something to fill in those moments, and having those tools in your toolbox always makes it a little easier. So when something happens, it's like, oh yeah, I know that we're going to be now doing the back in the day, it was, taste great, less filling type of thing. That was one of the routines we used to do a long time ago.
And the thing that I would say, when those types of things are fears, developing a plan can really take away the fear as best as possible. Like if you've got a backup plan and you've got it ready to go within moments, whatever it happens to be. John's talking about the ration. If the computer crashes, backup equipment in your vehicle. If a speaker blows up, you got a wireless mic that goes dead. You've got a second one available to you. Like whatever happens to be that fear, I would say one of the things that to kind of get away from that is to develop that assurance, that insurance that you have to say, okay, I can't do anything about it. That, those are things that in theory are out of your control. Let's assume you're using great equipment, you're treating it well. Eventually it just might die, right? There is that there is that thing. Like, if, you're driving down the road, eventually your car just might stop because, it happens. So what can you do? What are your plans? What is your backup plan? And get that put in place as quick as possible, so that no longer has to be a fear. Because really, if I'm at an event and I have a speaker go down and a client is not forgiving enough for me to get my backup plan in place and moving like as quick as I can, that, come on, like seriously, let's talk and be real for a minute, person. You're driving down the road, you get a flat tire and you're late for work. Would your boss be upset? Probably, but he's probably going to be understanding too, because things happen. It's not like you said, oh, speaker blew up, party's over. No, you have a backup plan. Like you have something ready to go so that, they're understanding. And that's the things I think that should help yourself overcome those fears.
I can't. John, go ahead.
So I wanted to kind of head more though, stay in that performance area, and the anxiety that a person can feel when you're on that stage, and maybe the crowd you're in a situation where you're playing and the crowd has changed, or you've got a group of people that, in the case of the bar, there were certain groups of people that the bar manager was aiming to pull in on a specific night. And there would be nights where we would get a few of those in, and those types, because they were looking for that, the 25 to 35 group. They didn't want the 21 to 25. So that's what they were after. And that happens. And then all of a sudden you've got this anxiety of, okay, now I have to somehow have a way to keep them here, or, to engage them and whatever. The anxiety that a person has playing to a crowd, I can't practice to a point on how to do some of the things when I'm in a performance. I mean, yes, I can practice my mixing and getting to know the music and cue points and things such as that. But there's really that, playing the right song at the right time, playing music that they will connect with. That can be a kind of a stressful time, especially if you've got a floor that's just not working. How does one not let that just eat you alive?
That's the right answer.
Go for it.
John, what did you say there prior to you can do this, but you can't do this? What were you saying that you could do?
That I could do?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I've been listening to cricket. I'm lost.
No, the stuff you were saying at the beginning, you're saying I could practice cue points. I could practice it.
Yeah, I can practice the mix of my songs. I can have my cue points set, and I can I know my music as far as
okay. So let's say you have that down.
Yes.
What does that leave you to focus on?
Well, it really becomes the song selection and being able to pick something that connects with them, or if gets them out on the dance floor.
How old are you?
I'm
older than 30.
Yes, I'm
older than the people that are there.
Yeah,
so
precisely.
You've seen. Okay, so you have done your work to prepare your
for
equipment.
That crowd. Oh yeah,
You've prepared setting the music up.
Yep, I've got all my Huey Lewis songs lined up, ready to go. Wasn't that important to get those?
I needed that. Thank you. You have enough knowledge to read a crowd. So what does that leave you to focus on?
Have the knowledge, but sometimes I think that our knowledge and our faith and our ability to read the crowd can be shaken.
Your faith in you. That's what I'm trying to get you past. You have to look at, you've done this before. How many times, if you really thought about it, have you been in that situation where you're like, crap, this crowd is just not reacting, and you work through it? You can work through it again. But if you don't do that pre-work of setting up those songs, you now have to think of the songs and the crowd. If you don't know your music, you now have to think of setting up the songs, don't know the music, figuring out the crowd. You then have to figure out if you didn't, figure out a way to work with that crowd. These are all things that you can eliminate prior to that thing going bad. So you can eliminate the stress over being able to change songs quick. Play a song, it's not working. You have the ability to mix out because you've marked the points, you practice mixing, you know what you're doing. That is not a stress point anymore. Just the crowd is. So you take that skill and you just turn it over quick. That song didn't work. Turn it over quick. I was at that college bar I was telling you guys about, and they wanted to hear Get Low by Little John, which surprised me because they're very young. And then I threw on Salt Shaker, which is something I normally do. They did not like Salt Shaker. And I went back and looked because I was talking to another DJ that was there, and he's like, yeah, I tried that too after that song, and it didn't work. And I looked at my thing, and it was less than a minute of that song that I played, and I was out of it already into something else. And that's one of the keys. Having these skills ahead of time that you go, I've done this part, I've done this part, I've done this part. So if I can't do this part, it's not because I failed. It's because this crowd is wackadoodle. Okay, because you will have crowds that you literally could inject them with fun in a syringe and they would not react. And you can't blame yourself. And that's okay. So that's why I'm trying to get people to get that stress out of there by doing as much as you can. And I think that if you look at it as going, okay, I've done my songs, set my cue points, I've done my mixing, I've been here long enough to be able to know a crowd. I've been to this restaurant before and saw what other people did that worked, or I tried it down the street and a lot of these people were from down there. Or if there's one person that you can connect with, one song that you know that girl will get out on the dance floor, you work that one angle. And you've done that before, haven't you?
Oh, of course. Of course.
Yeah. So you have to get past your stress, because your stress is what's going to hold you back if you've done this for any amount of time. You look at, you go, I've done this, and failing is not the end of the world. It's not brain surgery. I'm not killing someone if I fail. My job is to play other people's music. If I fail, big whoop. If you do lose the job, is that going to end your career? No. So
well, in a place like John lives, there is only one bar, so it might.
Yeah, but I would guarantee that there's someone else there that goes, I like what he played. Will you play over here next week?
True.
And it probably is like an Apple stand on the street or something.
Pretty much.
3 towns over.
Yeah, 3 towns over.
But that one has real toilet paper instead of the old Sears robot catalog, so we're good with that.
There you go.
So it's something you have to fight through. And like I said, it is important. That's why I talk about when I do my mixing classes, where a lot of it is prep on the music, because that's one less thing I have to think about. For me, when I'm out there, I like to dance and have a good time with the people and laugh and joke and clap and dance. And if I didn't have all that prepared, I couldn't do that. So all of this is making me a better DJ by doing that ahead of time, so that when I'm there, I can work that angle and go, oh, wait, they didn't like the song. Mix out. Oh, yeah, we're doing good now. Okay, keep it going, keep it going. And it's all about that working, that you go, number one, I know every song's not going to work. I accept that. I don't feel crushed because a song didn't work. Your good nights and your bad nights do not define you and define your worth. Your best of nights and your worst of nights do not define your worth. And you have to look at that as that going, if I did a bad job tonight, that does not mean I'm a bad DJ. If I rock the house tonight, does not mean I'm the best DJ in the world. Mental, getting past that mentally. Sorry, I rambled.
No, right. And I think that it's a big part of it, that most of this success or failure at that level is a mental thing. You've gotten past the point of, yeah, you're going to occasionally push the wrong button, but you're probably not going to do that as much as you did when we first started. And if you've got a really good software for your DJing, you're not going to push any wrong buttons because the software is smart.
Well, he's going to be talking about that one, because he just said, he used the word smart.
And he said good software too. So,
yeah. So
that's not that one.
So,
yeah, but good is subjective.
Yeah,
smart.
That's true. His software wouldn't fail you, but I don't think it would make you king of the night either.
Probably not.
I could talk about this forever. So where do you want to go with this next? I don't want to keep beating the horse, because trust me, my mind has worked through this over the past 30 some years of me doing entertainment. There's a lot in my book about this. It's something that I feel I've only really gotten good at in the past 3 years. So where do you want to go with this? Anyone in the chat? You guys are quiet over there. What's going down in chat town?
You mentioned something with that and about it being a mental game. And I think one of the things that we need to try and figure out is also the way to work that mental piece up, to make it stronger, so you don't fall victim into it. You talked about laying the groundwork and taking away the cue points in the mixing and taking away this piece and that piece. And so basically you have one piece that you can focus on, and that's the unknown variable that changes with other people. Okay. And so using some of those skills, but how to work on getting that mentally prepared and getting yourself into that frame of mind really becomes something that we need to focus on too as well. Like how do your friend has the mirror trick, and maybe that's just what he does. Maybe it's almost become a good luck charm to him as well too. What are you doing? What are, or not you personally, but what can we do to get this higher?
for me, the first thing to accept that you're humid and human, not humid. It's humid today, humid. And you are humid. I'm humid. We're all humid. At 98 degrees humid. You're human, and you're going to make a mistake. Accept that. You're not going to be perfect. So do not kick yourself for being imperfect. At the front of my DJ computer, I don't have any DJ computers near me, but right along the bottom, I have written just have fun. And that's literally my business mantra. It's on my webpage, everything. Just have fun. Because having fun, just letting go of trying to be that perfect DJ is going to help you. So that's the first step you need to do, is accept that there is no perfect game. Okay. There is no bowling of 300. Okay. It's never going to be perfect. So if you want that perfect night where you drive the crowd crazy from beginning to end, if you have it, good for you. If you don't, you're normal like the rest of us. So hold on to that. Number one. Okay. Number two, do the work, be prepared. Because when you have that down, that's going to take a lot off your mind. So that gives your mind, nobody can do all of it. So that's the other thing. Don't think you can do all of it. And if there's nights like I had my friend come, if there's nights where you're that far, get a friend to show up with you just to support. Have someone to be able to be a buffer between you and the crowd. Know your limits and go, okay, today's just not that day. How do I get through this? I get help. I work something out. If your mixing is there, maybe have some pre-made mixes to kind of help you. So when you get that point where you feel you're going to just fall on your face, you can put the premix in and kind of reset yourself and start again. Always have songs off to the side that are your go-tos. I hear Shani used to talk about all the time, Pitbull. So when everything goes to crap, grab a Pitbull song. Have stuff that works for you. Find those. But there's a lot in there that you have to accept you as human. And because we as what we do try to be the best at what we do, and we strive and we want to be the best, whether it's the best in our minds or the best in other people's minds. You probably have a better chance, Dan. I think that you hit this nail on the head, being the best in someone else's eyes long before you're the best in your eyes. Yeah. You have to come to grips with that with yourself at some point too.
And I think you hit on it exactly right. Like, you have to come to that realization that you're not going to be perfect, that you are human and that mistakes happen. And it's going to be actually more about how you recover from them than anything else. One of the things that I always tried to pride myself on was that my client would never know the mistake happened. Like, I try to make myself so prepared, so together. I try to, go to the behind the scenes stuff to set everything up that I can. And, sometimes little things kind of fall through the cracks. And fortunately, it's stuff that they would never notice, but it's stuff that I know that, oh, I should have done that. Oh, I forgot to do that. Oh, we got busy doing stuff and I forgot to grab this. Just things that I have as expectations of myself, that I don't do this, 2-3 nights every week to go, that's ingrained. I go, I do it once a week. And if there's an element that I don't do because the couple didn't want it, now it might be 2 weeks or 3 weeks in between doing routines. And so that becomes even harder. So the more, as you said, the more you can realize you're a human, and how we work with that mistake, I think, is also going to be what's going to drive you to not have the fear that you could.
So how much of the fear is the fear of is it the fear of us not being perfect for our clients and being accepted or loved by our clients, or is it the fear of embarrassing ourselves? And I see the reason I say that is because I have seen that with my kids over the years. Is there's times where they seem to be more fearful of embarrassing themselves in front of their classmates or whatever, that they won't even try something, rather than the fear of it not being, the idea that, oh, I couldn't be successful or even come in close. And it's like, I'm not even going to try because we've got that fear of embarrassment. Does that play a role in what for DJs?
I think it does when you're like you hit, when you're among peers. No, I don't think it, I think it's there somewhat when we're in general audience type settings where there is that fear of embarrassing ourselves. I think that's going to keep you more from trying something new, from going out on a limb and trying to be risky with something that, great reward, but could be great failure. But I don't think it's quite the same in a general audience for just their normal things.
Except when I remind you that they all have cell phones taking pictures and video.
There is that.
I was going to say something really good. No, because you said, what did you say there at the beginning? It was about fear of looking stupid. Oh, that's what it was. A couple weeks ago, we did a show on our happy songs, and one of the songs you mentioned, John, was Will Smith's "Shake the Room." Yeah. And there was a line in that song that I live by, and it's the opposite of what other people, like what we're thinking here. So you have to put this yourself into these points. That he says, "Life is a cage, but on stage I'm free." I feel more comfortable on a stage because I know if I goof up, it's at least going to be entertaining to someone. But in life, I goof up, someone's going to be standing there mocking me. So for me, life gives me more fear because everybody's going to go, "You're so different, MJ. You're so weird. You're so this. You're so," and I just get tired of hearing it. But on stage, if I do the exact same thing, I'm a good entertainer. So if you look at your mistakes of chance of looking silly, if you spin that right, that could connect you with the crowd like you can't even believe. Try walking on stage one time, going to say something and trip on purpose and see if the crowd doesn't join in with you. Trip and then just go like that, and the crowd's going to applaud. Is that entertainment to them? Are you going to be looked at as being cool? You're going to be like, dude, he just let that roll off his back. But it still may have stressed you. So it's how you play it. Like Dan said, it's your recovery. Is your recovery going to be throw your hands up and quit? Or is your recovery going to be going, I meant to do that? It's up to you.
And again, that recovery of having those little tools in your tool belt to utilize that. That was actually back in the day when Todd Mitchum was teaching about interactivity. That was part of his thing, is that, he would intentionally throw in and do things that just exactly like that to do the whoops. Look, yeah, I meant that. Yep. And he did.
I used to do it with the mic, where you'd loosen the mic up and it would drop and be like, "Hey, how you guys doing?" Or just let it slide down. You just play it up to be human, and you have to connect with the crowd, and you can't connect with the crowd of being perfect. Look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me. You're just going to be looked at. You're not going to be connected. And there's a big difference between connecting with a crowd, and every person, especially the wedding guys, that's what you want to do, is connect with everyone there the best you can. But if you put yourself on a pedestal, look at me, I'm the great entertainer. And I was just literally rewriting a section of my book about the performer. And are you going to be an artist, an entertainer, or a performer at that point? Or are you going to be you, which is probably a mix of all three?
Let's see in the chat, Andy from Germany. Thank you, Andy, for joining us tonight. We've got, I think, at least a half a dozen people from around the world outside of Canada and the United States with us tonight. And JC from Mexico. I saw JC there. But Andy mentions that we're talking about being hard on ourselves, or harder on ourselves than the guests are, and that they'll get at the end of the night, they look at that dance, or that wedding dance, and say, "This wasn't my favorite show. This just didn't fly." And yet the couple is ecstatic, and it's, you're the greatest ever. That response, because we are our harshest critics. There's just no way around that. And even in Germany, they can be a harsh critic on themselves. Let's see. Kylie mentions that fear of embarrassing oneself in front of potential clients is a real fear that they have.
Let's try to define that if we can, guys. What would you consider embarrassing yourself in front of a client? What would you consider?
One part is mispronunciation. That's one I think that a lot of us struggle with, especially when the last name is spelled it's Wacker. And for some reason, and that's what they went by, but 3 years prior to the wedding, they changed it, that the family started calling it Walker. And it's like, there's no L in that. Everybody spells Walker with an L. No, they went, so you're utilizing the common pronunciation of the last name, because we had a football coach that was a big name football coach with the last name Wacker. Yeah, you do something like that, and then you've got people in the crowd saying, "Well, obviously he doesn't know anything about these people because he's pronouncing their name wrong."
I've had that. I've had that happen to me twice in the past year, and both were the bride's first name. So like I had a Caroline, and I did Carolyn a couple different times. And keep in mind, I've had a conversation with her leading up to it. Outside prior to the wedding, I said Carolyn. She responded. 5 minutes into the reception, 10 minutes into the reception, Mom pulls me aside. She goes, "By the way, it's Caroline."
Just to let you know that her name is.
Yeah. And I'm like, and I kind of gave her that look like, oh my gosh. And outside, I called her Carolyn and she didn't correct me. She's like, yeah, she's like that. She wouldn't. She's fine. She has no issue with it, but it's my daughter and that's her name. And, and we kind of laughed it off and everything was fine. And then I had a very similar situation a couple of weeks ago. I met that morning with an Alicia and like was meeting with her and like doing some planning and everything else and get to the wedding. And I have an Elisa and I started using Alicia and I had somebody else kind of come beside me and was just like, and they said it. And I said, "No, I've been saying Elisa." And he goes, "No, you've been saying Alicia." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, you're right." And so like I made extra notes on my page, and I had their name in front of me, but it was just that it wasn't triggering right because it was just a different pronunciation of basically the same name. And yeah, it happens.
– That's where mumble rap makes you better. Just start mumbling names.
Yeah, you're not saying it clearly.
And there you have John and Ann, and those two guys are.
So a question popped up. Does this mean that a person should become a comedian or taking some comedy classes as part of that tool kit of responses?
But for the MC aspect, it's often been said, an improv class is a great thing to be a part of. Take it and be a part of it and learn how to use it. So if you're doing any MC type of ability, one, it's going to help you think on your feet should you have a trip up of some sort. I don't think you need to be full on comedian, but I do think having if you can make an audience laugh, you're going to get them on your side regardless of what happens. So that improv and that comedian aspect, I don't think you need to go completely into the comedian realm unless, again, that's your branding that you're trying to work with.
At the moment there, my brain went into what's his name, Seinfeld, up at the mic at a wedding, going, "What's wrong with the turkey? It's so dry." Yeah, sorry.
That's right. Earlier when you were talking about looking in the mirror, I thought of SNL.
Good enough. I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me. Yeah. It was first Jan Brady, and then it was Stuart Smalley.
Stuart Smalley was the one I was thinking.
Yeah, it's as we're coming down to the end of the hour. What we do isn't any different than any other job, because you screw up in an office, you screw up in a factory, you screw up somewhere else, you're going to screw up. How many times is that screw up going to lose you your job? Probably not many. Might get you your head shaked, but take that as motivation to work harder next time. Do not beat yourself up over it, but take it as motivation to, I'm going to do a little bit better. I had a problem with a gig a while back, and I felt good after I heard something. I couldn't really connect with the crowd. And then I came back and heard that another DJ who I seriously look up to had a problem connecting with the crowd. I'm like, okay, that makes me feel better right there that I wasn't the only one. And then I prepared for it, did quite a bit of work on it, and went back, and it was just as smooth as butter. And that's sometimes you just have to go, okay, so I didn't do so well last time. I've been given another chance. Let's do this. Let's show them that I am capable. And that sometimes that you have to look at it that way, not beat yourself up over the shortcoming, but take that as, okay, what can I learn? What can I do with this? I have knowledge that someone who hasn't been there doesn't have. I'm a step ahead of those people, You
had your failure. It didn't work, so you can step on that mountain to get higher.
Yeah. So be encouraged. If anything else, I just want to encourage anybody who's watching this that you strive for this life to be a DJ and do this stuff. what we get to do is special. Literally, I think the biggest description to our job, if you guys agree or disagree, is that we get to celebrate with people. If it's at a bar, we celebrate the end of a work week. At a wedding's a wedding, a birthday party, whatever.
Whatever.
So if we can't enjoy this, we should really do something else. So don't be hard on yourselves, and enjoy yourself is what you do. Figure out a way to enjoy it and not stress over it.
Nice.
Excellent.
So, John, I think because we're kind of getting close to that time, what do we got coming up this week?
It's going to be, let's see, tonight, Howie's going to be coming back. They're talking about getting your gear ready to go out and do outdoor events. Brian is going to be joining Howie. I think Brian and Jay tonight. Brian had a weekend wedding where he was doing it in very, very hot, humid conditions. So I'm sure they're going to be covering that, using the gear outside, which a lot of us are doing. For those of you who didn't get a chance, or maybe you did, if you're part of the Vault on the Vault Facebook group, earlier today, Joe Bunn and I did about an hour together talking about kind of the state of the industry, what we were seeing, how people are reacting to how things are going right now, and giving some thoughts on that. And that was kind of a fun little time. So if you guys get a chance to check that out, you can go to the DJ's Vault Facebook group or DJ's Helping DJ. There's that other Facebook group. I know it was broadcast in 3 different spots. I think he did that today. So you can check that out. Tomorrow night, it'll be Brian and Jay will be back doing their music thing. And those tonight and tomorrow night are out at DJNTV.com/chill. So you can get those. We're going to be taking one more week off, and then I think we're going to hit a week with Ben Stowe, and then once we get past Labor Day, then we'll be back regular on Tuesday nights for the rest of the year, hopefully. So, MJ, was this what you got on Wednesday or?
It's an off week this week,
Okay.
But please go back and look at last week's virtual DJ show, because apparently it was good. Lots and lots and lots and lots of people watched it. Lots of people joined in. There's some good stuff there. I definitely will be doing more of those. And I want to thank everybody who watched it live, watched it afterwards.
Yeah. Hey,
more
Corey,
coming this fall. Just like John said, after Labor Day, more coming.
Corey, thanks for joining us out there on Twitch tonight. I see that you made it with us, so thank you much for hanging out tonight. So that's about it, Dan. Otherwise, the next virtual training night is September 20th, and we should have the exhibitors coming in from 6 to 8, and then content from 8 to 12, or 8 to 10, excuse me, that night, and then we'll have our shows up probably until about 12. So that's September 20th, so mark that on your calendar to plan to hang out with us for the evening.
Save the date. You got it. Well, thank you guys very much for taking time out of your night to join us, and throughout the night, I hope you realize again that we're all human. We make mistakes, and hopefully you got some tips and some tricks that you can use, that you can try, and don't wait until the event. Try some of those things now so they become more second nature for you next time. See, I'm already talking like now.
Yeah.
But I do appreciate you all tuning in. Have yourself a wonderful night. We'll see you next time.